Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from the CUNY TV Foundation, Capital One Bank, Genova Burns, Gian Tomasi and Webster, New York Community Bank, the Witkoff Group, M&T Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Greenberg Traurig, LLP, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company. Additional funding is provided by grants from AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, Aerial Property Advisors, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, Colliers International NYC, Cushman & Wakefield, Customers Bank, DDG, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Eastern Union Funding, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Herrick Feinstein LLP, Hersha Hospitality Trust, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides Centurion Holdings, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, Matone Group, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, New Banks, People's United Bank, RBS Citizens Bank, SJP Properties, Sterling & Sterling, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, Urban American, and These Friends.
New York City, the hospitality capital of the world. 52 million visitors, maybe 55 million visitors. Everyone is coming to New York City. So what's really happening in the hospitality industry? Today, I've assembled a group of individuals who will provide different insights on the hospitality industry in the best hospitality market in the world, New York City. My guests, they include the legendary restaurateur, okay? Shelley Fireman of Fireman Hospitality. Scott Garrity, who is the area vice president and general manager for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, Central Park, and also the vice chairman of the Hotel Association of New York City. Brendan Keating, who is a vice president and team leader at M&T Bank. Without him, we don't have money to these finance over here. And last but not least, we have Joffrey Mills, who is the managing director for the Crowne Plaza, Times Square, Manhattan, and also the chairman of the Hotel Association of New York City. Since you've been in the business longer than all of us, okay?
Put together.
I didn't say put together.
Put together,
okay?
Go ahead.
You know, you've elevated from leaving McDougal Street to coming to Midtown Manhattan. How do you see the hospitality aspect? Because you are one of the best restaurateurs around. I mean, you have, as you said to me, your little children, you know, Bond 45, Red Eye Grill, Trattoria, Fiorello, okay? You know, you have all your children. How do you see the market? Is it one of the best ever in the career of restaurateurs for Mr. Fireman?
No, it was better in 2006 and 2005 when the investment bankers were having big parties. So from my selfish point of view, it was much better back in 2007. It's better than it's been, but it's been better. And
what is it? You have 3 loaves of bread under you and you're saying I need my 4th?
No, I'm saying that I have 3 loaves of bread and I'm very happy. If I had a 4th one, I'd give some of it away. Maybe I'd give part of the 3 away.
Okay.
I think I would spend it wisely.
30 years ago, people would go to lunch and they would have 2 or 3 drinks. The world has changed. In 2006, 2007, they go and maybe spend $1,200 for a bottle of wine from the investment bankers. So the world has changed. Has that happened in the hotel world?
Oh, I think certainly. You know, we see similar cyclical patterns as well. 2006, 2007 for the hospitality industry as a whole was probably as robust in New York City as it's ever been. It's great now. It's certainly better than it was in 09 and 10, 11. We're seeing that upward momentum. A lot of building, a lot of real estate going up, a lot of new competition.
There's no more parking lots. Forget the poor parking lot. It's all gone. It's a new hotel, another little hotel. But
well, and a lot of mixed use, I mean, it's a very different model than it was, say, 20 years ago, where someone would come into the market and put up just a hotel.
both of you have been involved with the hospitality, the hotel market for many years. And you've been really, even with the 5-star when you were at the St. Regis, which truly we could consider the 5-star.
And the Ritz-Carlton.
Okay, and the Ritz-Carlton also, on those two. Now we have this new entree of, let's say, the 5.5-star or the 6-star, the Baccarat Hotel or the Park Hyatt, and or whatever else they're going to build over there. How do you see these, especially with what Shelley said before about the investment bankers? These hotels need $1,000 or $1,100 to break even for a room, and the average New York City daily rate today is what, $247, $250 in that number.
Mid-200s.
Okay, so we're talking about a different world. How do you see that? Those hotels surviving in 2014, 2015.
Well, that really exists in the market today. I mean, it is the upper upscale. There's currently 6 5-star hotels in the city. They're all located up in the area that you're talking about now. The new individuals that are coming to it add some competition to the market, makes us all a little bit more competitive, a little feistier, probably benefits our clientele more. But we have a narrow market. It's not as large as, say, the 3-star market in Manhattan, which is very large hotels, et cetera. It's a much smaller group. But there are individuals that have those financial resources. It's really a very experiential buy for them at the end of the day.
But
for bespoke experience.
It's interesting, especially in your dual role with, the Crown Plaza. How many rooms? 1,600 something.
No, 795.
795. But there are so many boutiques that have also opened, which are charging rates pretty close to your rates.
They're substantial.
There's so many. That's where the biggest growth in the marketplace is. You count on a hand in the last year or 2 years and the future year of the hotels that are in the 400 to 500 and up. And it's amazing how much of those, while there is some 5-star development in that range, much of them are really in this broadening 3 to 4-star market. We keep on dissecting that and breaking that up into other pieces. And those hotels are evolving and reshaping. And you've got this growing boutique market that, you're right, they're cropping up all over. The biggest issue is, we're spreading the 22-inch pans, Shelley, is now getting to be 30 and 40 inches. And, while we're going from 52 to 53 million, when you add all these rooms in, there's only so much compression that's left in the market. Going back to 2007 and 2008 for the hotel industry in New York, there was so much compression. It allowed us, over the course of 20 or 25 weeks in the year, to drive the rates up. And so the older hotels that aren't going through an opening process, that have consistent year-over-year numbers, they've got lesser growth, right? And that the challenge is that you've got all these new players in the market, and maybe there's 5 or 6 weeks a year. We still don't even know if that's the case, where you've got really compression, where it used to be rates through the roof. Anybody could charge anything because there was no rooms available in the city.
But you have to charge in order to pay whatever. So how do you charge? How do you decide how much to charge?
Well, I think,
how do you do that? I struggle all the time, so I'm asking that question.
Well, there's elasticity in different, you're in a different world, because today you have a menu price. Tomorrow night you probably didn't change the menu price on every single thing.
No, what we discover is people have a lot of money in their pocket, but their stomach is cheap. They eat it. No, that's very important. They have to eat in the evening, so at lunchtime, how much can they put in their stomach? They don't drink at lunch, and who wants to eat a lot? So you can't charge for that salad. It's not nice, and you can't do it. And no matter how much money you have in your pocket, it's not about, I just want to eat a little.
Well,
We really find the same thing within our own food and beverage operations. You know, we see great elasticity in pricing, even within a given day within a hotel. But when it comes to menu prices, you know, no one's going to pay, you know, $35 for a steak tomorrow and $75 the next week, right? So it's a much
real-
different.
and retail pricing on
Model.
food in restaurants hasn't changed that much. If you look back 25, 30 years ago, what was the special prices in Midtown for lunch at a fancy restaurant, you'd accept today $25 for.
Except you don't want to eat that food, so you can't. They're
Right.
eating not the fancy sauces that you might think you could charge for.
So here's the
an
question.
evolution.
The
real
banker is,
problem.
you know, you're sitting here with the restaurateur, with the hoteliers. How do you make and listening to some of this, I get a little worried because I'm a conservative person, basically, as most people know. Or should I say a pessimist? I mean, how do you make the decision to finance? I mean, M&T has been on the forefront of lending, of being a major lender to the hospitality market. I wouldn't lend to him either.
No.
Okay, you know, that's,
Thank God,
Okay.
I don't have to borrow.
Well, we're not lending into those like 6-star kind of products.
no, I agree, but you are lending to the 3-star that Joffrey was
Absolutely.
saying. You're lending to, look, I know that you were financing, you know, the Jade, which came out to be a beautiful hotel, you know, which even Will and I didn't realize it would do that well on the time, but the timing's over there. But the Village needed something. You could have been there back, but you were there 50 years ago.
I've been
But
jaded enough. No.
But what I'm saying is, how hard is it to sit there when you go to committee, when you're hearing all of this? You hear on one side, 52 million visitors. You hear on the other side, a lot of compression, a lot of new competitors, plus, as we brought up prior to the show, you know, these illegal rooms, the Airbnb, or people renting apartments in buildings like Shelley's and other places, you know, because, you know, this is the black market hotel rooms, which nobody really knows the true number because it even changes during the period of time.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, what we do is we focus on sponsors and operators who have been in the business. They understand the cyclicality that comes with it, and we'll go through those cycles. We're not looking to lend to those real high upper scale properties, but we will follow some of our clients up that up the product stream. So if they're looking to build something a little more high quality, or you know, we will follow them to that. We will kind of move up with the dollars per key, but you know, it's really just focused on who the sponsors are, their track record. And one of the things that I look at now versus, you know, we're kind of almost back to where the peaks was before in 2007, 2008. But what we have now is we got a great baseline of what we saw in 2009, 2010. So we can see how some of these properties had done during those weaker periods and kind of do much better stress testing than we ever had been able to do in the past.
Here's an interesting point. You know, especially your Midtown, and your Midtown. The bank lends within the community in the 5 boroughs, and there have been, you know, Long Island City. You know where that is? That's near the bridge.
It's a
you know?
foreign,
It's
yeah, I know
foreign
where it's
country. Okay.
foreign.
27 hotels in Long Island City. You know,
Thank God I don't know.
you're right. I mean, I still, you know, and people tell me, oh, I want to do a loan in Long Island City, and I say, you crazy. The only reason that a lot of these hotels have survived because they're the low-cost alternative to go, as opposed to go to you or somewhere else, you know, oh, I'll take the subway across.
But there are differences. There is a little difference to that, I think. And you know, our company, Highgate, when we separate, you look at what's happening in Brooklyn and the expansion and the number of rooms and
Brooklyn
changes
is
in
a
Brooklyn.
different.
There you go.
Brooklyn is a different place than Long Island City.
Right.
Everybody, you know, you have the Barclays Center, you have a big vibe in Brooklyn. In Long Island City, you do have a lot of apartments being built, but you don't have a real community. They haven't, you know, a Shelley or some other good food operators have not opened up in Long Island City. You know, there are smaller little places maybe that'll see 30 or something like that.
And Brooklyn is a destination on a global map, right? People
Yes,
know
it
the
is.
name from.
Thank God.
But
That's why it's called the Brooklyn Diner,
Yeah, thank God.
not the Bronx Diner.
But I think you also find as well that, you know, if you build it, they will come to a certain extent. I think to the New York, to the Manhattan market, certainly on that end. You know, it is cyclical. You know, I think you open the show with, you know, the greatest hospitality, one of the greatest hospitality centers in the world. And, you know, we've shown over the cycles that you can build and we will eventually grow into that. And there's an ebb and flow as it goes.
You know, I did an analysis. I wrote a couple of articles. I really am heavy into the hospitality market. Long Island City has the 27. Staten Island in the last 5 years has opened up one, maybe. The Bronx has opened up two recently, the Bronx Opera House and maybe another one. You know, the destination of being a mile and a half from Yankee Stadiums really hasn't been a major reason for people to go to the Bronx. I know it's your alma mater, that's where you grew up. But do you, and in your role at the Hotel Association of New York, do you see a lot of new members and new hotels opening up in the boroughs?
We see it in Brooklyn and Queens. We don't see it in Bronx. I mean, we have about 297 6-member hotels. A majority of them are Manhattan.
And you see more in select service. You know, select service certainly has great growth going on right now in the city and has produced well. They've got great RevPAR growth, et cetera.
You know, for my audience, as opposed to inside baseball, what is select service?
You know, we talk about full service hotels and select service. So full service would mean that we have all the various amenities that come along with it. We have restaurants, we have room service, we provide door service, bellman, et cetera. In select service, you may have a couple of those items, but you generally don't run all of the associated services that come with a full service hotel. So generally, it's more for an individual who wants to pay substantially less and has the opportunity to do things on his own. They're going to wheel their own bags in. They're going to take them up to their room. They're going to go out for dinner tonight. They're not going to order room service, you know,
And
et
maybe
cetera.
the hotel provides a complimentary continental breakfast, and that's the only service that outside the room
Food and beverage.
they really provide.
There's a hotel, which is Highgate happens to have the involvement of the Park Central, where they're opening up the hotel.
The West House?
The West House,
Yes.
which is going to be offering within the hotel, it's carved out of the
Right.
piece, they're going to offer for $30. You don't serve breakfast, fortunately, anymore.
I do at the Brooklyn
at the
Diner.
Brooklyn
I'm
Diner?
gonna
You're gonna,
pick it,
okay, you'll
buddy.
cry about it, okay. They are going to give you, for $30, you're going to be able to get breakfast, you know, and unlimited drinks, soft drinks and hard drinks. And there was an article written that, you know, if you buy a drink in a hotel, $30, you know, it's a great bargain over there.
It's a couple of drinks.
Right, it's a
lot
couple of drinks
Midtown
over there.
hotels.
Right. You know, there have been a proliferation of a lot of hotels opening in Lower Manhattan because of the, you know, the towers, the museum, the monument, and this and that. How do you see Lower Manhattan with regard to the hospitality industry today? And then I'll ask him about it.
Yeah, I think, you know, it is a market that has seen expansive growth. You know, Freedom Tower is a little bit behind schedule. I think all of the building along that end was really directed so that it was as close to that opening. So right now there's a tremendous amount of presence in the market by all of the majors, as well as some of the boutiques. They're doing well. They've got great occupancies right now. I think as with all of us, they're looking for more substantial rate growth. And, you know, I think most of the openings happened a few years earlier than what would have perhaps been ideal. But with the Freedom Tower, everything else going into that market, we see it as a great expanding market that's going to fill. So I don't think there's a big concern on those from an investment perspective, et cetera.
Yeah, I think, you know, the way Manhattan still works, you know, you have the center of the bullseye in Times Square kind of from a compression, and then it ripples out to downtown and other areas. And, you know, if there's challenging with luxury market filling in Midtown, downtown's going to have a lot more trouble. If there's compression uptown in luxury market, then downtown probably. It's the same thing with the, you know, the 3-star and 4-star hotels and such as it works. I worked years ago downtown with now what's the Conrad, when I ran that, and the issue was always the same, and that was during the peak of the market back in 2007.
But part of that is, you know, where it's located, and it relates a little bit to your Ritz over there. It's located at the end, okay? It's not centered, right? Battery Park City, you know, has a different agenda. People don't, maybe...
They don't work the same way. They don't work the same way as Midtown. Midtown, you know, you'll find executives walk 5, 6 blocks across town, uptown. They don't make that trip across the west side to the highway
That's
from
exactly
one side to
the
other. There's a barrier there, and there's internal barriers because the folks in some of the office buildings don't leave an office building even during the day for their meal. It's a different, the population works differently, lives differently down there. I think it's evolving tremendously.
It's becoming a true 24/7, but it still hasn't been there. Banking-wise, financing, how do you...
Yeah, we like that market. I mean, we're actually lending to Highgate right now down
Yeah.
there. So we're doing a construction project for Highgate right now down right by the World Trade Center. You know, we feel good about that market. We're looking at what's happening there with all the tourism that's going to be coming through the World Trade Center area, the development that's going on
Which is still the
down there.
#1 tourist site in the city is the trades.
Yeah,
Right,
Got the
and
Fulton
that's
Street
why you're
station.
busier on the weekends than you are during the week in many cases of downtown, because...
Yeah, you're down on the park. You've
Right.
got, you know, it's tremendous area. The views are unparalleled, right? You don't have those
Beautiful.
views in Midtown.
No.
Since you never leave Midtown...
I would.
You would, so why wouldn't you maybe go to Brooklyn, where the Brooklyn Diner, you know, could be, or to Lower Manhattan? I mean, I realize you
I'll
like the
tell you
bow
why.
tie.
No, I'll tell you why. Oh, very simple. I've always had a philosophy about 2 meal periods a day, one to break even and one to make a profit. In Brooklyn, there's no 2 meal periods a day. At lunchtime, it's too fragmented, doesn't exist. And so it's 1 meal period, generally. Now, that doesn't mean there's an exceptional location, but nobody's called me on it. And so that's why I don't go to
Mike will
Brooklyn.
talk to you later about one.
No, but
Okay.
but
And then on Lower Manhattan, which is improving, again, the 2 meal periods a day. Katz's Deli does 2 meal periods.
I was taking a walk on Sunday throughout the entire city. I walked 10.5 miles. I passed a number of places. And as I passed Katz's Deli at 1 o'clock with about 50 people waiting online to get into the door, you know, it's
And
just,
I would surely go to Lower Manhattan if I was on Broadway, anywhere around the Balthazar area, because there's stores there and people shop. But they offered me spaces east of there, and there's not a soul there. And I know, or let me just,
Yes.
or it's a mom and pop store, and I'm too old to run a mom and pop store.
Yeah. So, but
And
you
that's
know,
why.
but you bring up an interesting point which relates to hospitality. There are markets like the meatpacking district, and I've done restaurant shows specifically on that market. And Scott Conant, when I said to him, Scott, you know, are you open 2 meals a day? And Steve Starr, are you open? Both of them said, no, we don't have people at lunch, okay? And that doesn't follow the Shelley Fireman rule of profitability. 1 meal a day doesn't pay the...
Not for me,
certain-
and
for
not,
certain.
and not that I have the perfect answer, but that's been my approach. And you need to take time, and the banks are not supporting that much time for restaurants anyways. It takes a lot of dollars. You still got to have a big payroll, and every day you got to pay every expense. So
I would argue that I think some of those places in the meatpacking almost have a second meal period because they run so late and into the morning hours.
I think
that's where they
I
have
think
their
Joffrey
second.
is right.
I think-
They have as opposed to the traditional meal period, when most restaurants, what time do your
I
restaurants
would
close?
agree.
11
About
o'clock?
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. They have that second meal period from 12 to 3.
Right.
So
club.
they're running a different type.
I agree. Some are and some aren't. I agree, but and maybe candidly, I don't have the 3 o'clock concept, meaning that's a whole other special person who's staying up to 3 and goes to work at 8:30 in the morning.
It's also a neighborhood. It's the way that area has evolved into that late hour place.
You know, I remember a number of years ago, and I was involved with some projects in Harlem. There was the talk, you know, that the Marriott was going to open up on 125th Street. And what really happened in Harlem is that one hotel has opened up, the Indigo, right now, at the end over there. And there may be one or two. Do you see
that opened there as well?
Is it, is it Andaz?
the Andaz? Not the Indigo, it was the Andaz that opened, which is a mixed development of apartments and a hotel. Do you see, do you feel that the hospitality market, and it's happened with the restaurant market, you know, what's his name?
Yeah,
Marcus
right,
Samuelson and some other things in Sylvia. But do you see the moving to...
Sure, absolutely. It's all moving right uptown.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say to that is, you know, we follow tourism, right? We follow where do people want to be. So a lot of it is if there ends up being a market because tourism goes and people are comfortable, then we'll follow.
Here's a quick question. We don't have much time, but I just want how important is the Expedia and, you know, the Hotel.com and all the rest for the industry? I'm not talking about your hotels. I'm talking about the Hotel Association of New York.
Well, from the association standpoint, we don't play any reference to it because we really, from an association, our association doesn't trade.
I understand,
those
but your
financial
members,
and
what about your
climate.
members? What do you...
I'm sure it's very important. I mean, unfortunately, you know, the evolution after 9/11 and the desperate nature of us looking for volume in 2001 spurred a new form of business, and that's evolved and evolved maybe 2-3 times since then. And those bigger third-party volume agencies drive a tremendous amount of volume.
It's
You can't turn it off.
It's another channel. It's a travel partner.
So, you know, to have the four of you here, half an hour is an inappropriate time. So I promise that later on in the season, with the exception of Shelley. Now,
Why me?
We love having you with us.
Why am I the
I don't know.
exception here?
Because-
I'll
but
build
he
a
was good in the
hotel.
green room.
If I
Those
built a
cookies are
hotel,
good.
can I
You
come
built out,
again?
you can come.
All right.
No. I always want Shelley back, okay? I'd like to thank Shelley, Scott Brennan, and Joffrey, and I'll see you next week.